Good morning. Okay, so we rearranged this morning because we realized we wanted to sort of, whoops, hold on, let's set this up. We wanted to start big and talk about social networks and then gradually sort of work down and talk about mentoring in general and then different kinds of mentoring, and then within the relationship, a mentoring relationship, what are some strategies to make that go really well? Can you hear me okay? So as Tom said, I'm Jennifer Blakesley. I'm a research assistant professor here at PSU in the School of Social Work. I'm early career. I got my PhD in 2012, so that means I have kind of a handful of sort of smallish to medium-sized research projects. My quick sort of elevator pitch, if I was going to describe my research very briefly, would be that I'm interested in social networks, specifically support networks. I'm interested in mentoring, specifically youth mentoring, both informal and formal mentoring. And then I'm also interested in service systems. I'm in social work, so I look at things like child welfare systems, juvenile justice systems, and how those systems either support or don't support mentoring relationships within support networks. And then this is Maya. I'll let her introduce herself real quick.
Hi, everyone. So Tom gave me a pretty good introduction. Like he said, I was in all of your spots like 3 years ago, so I know what this is like. I just graduated, like Tom said, with community health in this OHSU, PSU combination School of Public Health, and I'm going into graduate school for sociology. So, yeah. Oh, and my research, I do research up at OHSU working on like aging and Alzheimer's disease and how like walking and different proactive things can really help like slow the increase in Alzheimer's disease. So,
yeah. And I asked Maya to help with this presentation, I think 36 hours ago, and she's such a trooper and dove in. I usually have to do it by myself, but I have a graduating mentee who could help. So, okay. Our clicker's not working. Our agenda just for our quick talk the next hour or so, we're going to talk about academic support networks, support functions within networks, and then we're going to map your networks, your pre-Exito academic networks. So I'm going to talk about a few different kinds of relationships, and as I'm talking, sort of be thinking about the people who may have been serving those functions for you and helping to get you here today. And that'll be towards the end of it. So. Okay, support networks. So we all know what a network is. We're talking about the interconnections, our relationships with people, and then their relationships with each other, and the access to other networks that we have through our relationships with individual people and their relationships to each other. So we've got personal networks, we've got our everyday life, we've got friends and family. Today we're talking specifically about academic and career networks. Those are really interrelated. So the people in your life who provide you support that helps you be successful in your academic life. Is what we're going to be specifically talking about today and mapping today. So academic support network. So these are the people who are going to support you in different ways, in different combinations, and in different stages as you go through undergrad, as you go into grad school, as you go postdoc, early career researcher. And it's going to change. Some people are going to move in and out of your networks. There are going to be some people who stay the whole time, but the kind of support they give you changes, or it increases, or it decreases. And we're going to talk about the different kinds of relationships that might be in our network. So we've got formal role-based relationships, so academic advisors, instructors, people you don't necessarily pick because of them in particular, but then also the self-identified relationships that you'll be sort of gathering over the next few years. So people you do kind of click with, people that are in a position to support you. I think you guys learned about champions yesterday, so people who are champions and are really kind of in your court and ready to help. And then we're going to talk about strong ties versus weak ties, which is just kind of network terminology for the relationship between two people when you look at a network. And you can define that in terms of frequency of communication, closeness, supportiveness, and networks to function well, they need a combination of strong ties and weak ties. Weak ties aren't a bad thing. Those are the relationships that may just be really functional. You go to them for support, one particular kind of support, and maybe not very often, but it's there when you need it. And then when we think about networks too, we want to think about reciprocity. So some relationships, it's really equal, the give and take, and some not so much. Some it's more about someone supporting you. Some it's more about you giving, like at a job, you might be giving more than taking. And then interconnections. So starting to think about the people in your network are also connected to each other, and that makes networks stable, and it also makes things kind of flow well through the networks. So especially as you kind of go through undergrad, go through grad school, faculty members know each other, you're going to be working with students who know each other. So just something to keep in mind, that everybody's kind of interconnected. Okay, we're going to talk about 3 different kind of support roles in a network. Sponsoring, mentoring, coaching, collaboration, emotional support. So one person could provide all of these. I think it would be kind of rare in an academic network. You might get people might provide 2 or 3, or maybe just one of these types. And we'll walk through all of these and define what we mean by those. So we are going to talk about what each of those are. I want you to be thinking about whether they sort of sound familiar. They make you think of someone when I talk about what that function looks like, and then we'll map that out. So sponsorship, when I heard that you guys talked about champions earlier, it made me think that was closest to what we talk about with sponsorship. And I'm talking about sponsorship before talking about mentoring, because mentoring is a little more familiar idea, but sponsorship is really, really important. So a sponsor is someone who has higher status than you by definition, or they have more influence in a certain network than you do. And they can use that influence, they can use their reputation, they can use their relationships with other people to help you because of their relationship with you. So they can vouch for you. They can write a letter of recommendation and someone's going to read it and go, whoa, okay, if they say so. They can recommend you for grad school, scholarships, jobs. They can connect you to projects, internships. They can take you to a conference, introduce you to their colleagues. This is where, thinking again about interconnected relationships, this is where your reputation as kind of a committed student matters a lot. Being a student's a full-time job. And it's about your own learning, it's about you contributing to the learning of others. But faculty talk to each other, they recommend students to each other. So I want you to think also, for people in the room today, was there anybody who tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, have you heard about this Exito program? I think it might be something that would be good for you. Sponsorship. So maybe you were a bright student in their class. Maybe you did great on assignments. Maybe you asked great questions in class, and when they heard about Exito, they thought of you. That's sponsorship. So, and the summary kind of how you could think of that person. This person knows who to talk to and who to recommend. They know people. They're super connected in their network. So mentoring is kind of a big idea, and we're going to talk for our purposes right now about very specific academic mentoring in your field. And by that I mean wherever you're headed as far as research goes. So I told you I'm interested in social networks, I'm interested in youth mentoring, I'm interested in service systems. So my academic mentors when I was in grad school were the people who could talk to me about those things. So I'm really interested in foster care systems. And I knew a little bit about it, but not a lot. And a lot of academic mentors spent a lot of time talking to me about what they knew about the foster care system, or what they knew about support networks. Or I learned a lot about mentoring from Tom, because he's a mentoring expert. That's how we sort of develop our research interests. It grows over time, and it grows out of conversations with people who know a little bit about something that you think you're interested in, but you don't know much about it yet. This person has discussions with you. They invest time in you. They know the steps you need to take to get to your next level. I used to always say about Tom, he always sees me as one step further in my development than I can see myself, because I've never been there, so I don't know what it looks like, but he knows. They may be just a few steps ahead of you in their career, or they may have an established career. So they may be a grad student, or they may be, a tenured professor. So this person also often knows what to do next to meet your goals. And just some tips, we're going to talk a lot about this later this morning, but my quick tips: be prepared when you're meeting with these people. Know what kind of guidance you're looking for, and use their expertise. They all have their own expertise, but it's going to be different person by person. So just be thinking about that, so that the time you have with them is you can maximize it, get the most out of it. Appreciate the time they spend with you. That's how you know you're being invested in. If somebody's meeting with you for an hour to talk to you about your interests, they're investing in you because they believe in you. And expect to have different levels of comfort with different mentors. We're going to talk about all kinds of mentors today, but it's not always, it's sometimes going to be awkward. It's sometimes when you first meet, it's going to be clunky and weird, and sometimes you're going to meet and it's going to click immediately, and you're like, okay, we're going to be great. This is going to be easy. Sometimes it never stops being awkward. That doesn't mean that that person can't be super supportive for you. Like Tom said, I have 6 mentees. Some of them, it was immediate. It's like, oh, we're going to be fine. And some of them, it wasn't right away, but it got there. And now some of the relationships that were harder to kind of get going are some of the richest relationships I have now. So Exito students I've been working with for a couple years now. So you get there by spending time with each other. Next up, coaching. I'll do this one pretty quickly. It's basically teaching. It's someone who can sort of be with you at a computer doing something, or out in the field gathering data. They know how to do something you don't know how to do yet. So could be a tutor, it could be an academic advisor, it could be a supervisor when you're placed in a lab, could be a grad student. You're working on something. They know the steps you need to take. You're the one doing the work. So they're kind of coaching you through it. They give you feedback, help you improve. And this involves you being coachable. So, you know, nobody likes to necessarily hear feedback that's critical. Sometimes it depends on whether we're having a good day or a bad day, how we hear that. But we all need it to get better. And so the more you can sort of be like, okay, hit me, the more that coaching relationship can help you grow. So this is the person that shows you how to do something. Collaboration or a colleague. This is the person who's doing something with you. So they may be a near peer, they may be a little higher, they may be someone you're working on a group project in class with. You have shared goals, you're both committed to the same deadlines, you're committed to each other, you're obligated to each other to get to the next step. You're learning or accomplishing something together. So a co-author on a paper, another Exito student working with you in the lab. These are your collaborators. Often a peer could be someone a little higher, but it's really about the fact that you're working together on something. So a coach is showing you how to do something. A collaborator, you're figuring it out together. And lastly, emotional support, which of course we all need. This usually comes from someone you can vent to. It's a safe space. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you can dump on them and it's okay. This isn't often your mentors and your sponsors. It's usually a peer, it's a near peer, it's someone in your family or a friend who knows a lot about college, who sort of understands what you're doing, kind of the breadth of your responsibilities as a college student. So we all need to have at least a couple of these in our lives. This person listens and understands you in particular. So as you're talking about you know, challenges or obstacles or exciting news that you're getting as a student, they get it and they can share that with you, share the experience with you and sort of help you get to the next step. So when we're talking about emotional support in academic networks, like when I map my own, there are a lot of friends that I wouldn't put on there or family members that I wouldn't put on there because they don't specifically help me about academia. So maybe they didn't go to college and so they're totally in my corner. They support me 100%, but I can't ask them for advice or kind of talk to them about the challenges of having multiple classes with finals that are due the same day. So when we do the network mapping, we're talking specifically about the ones that can help you be a good student. So just to review, we've got sponsor, that's the person who knows who to recommend for something. Mentor discusses with you what to do next steps. Coach showing you how to do something. Collaborator doing it with you. And emotional support, the person who listens and understands you in particular. Now we're going to start talking about network maps. We're going to start passing around a couple big sheets of paper. One is a big sheet with quadrants. That's your network map. We're going to be filling that out. Just hold off a little bit on filling it out when you get it. Because first Maya's going to tell us about her network map.
All right, so the main parts of a network map talk about a lot of these connections that Jennifer just described. So I have my professional academic network, and then I have my peer academic network, and then there's also those people that are kind of there for social support. And so when you're looking at my professional academic network, I have people like Jennifer and my RLC mentor, which you guys will all be in RLC soon, which is Research Learning Community. And then I have some of my professors and instructors and the Exito Academic Advisor. And so all of these people are people that have either helped me and were willing to kind of provide that sponsorship that Jennifer was talking about, as far as writing letters of recommendation and really like being instrumental to kind of helping with that process of getting into graduate school. And I know like the typical demographic for Exito is that a lot of you might be like first generation students or first generation college students, or like you don't have family that went to college, or I don't know, you might be parents. And so juggling all of those things and maybe needing some of that extra help to kind of get you on the path of where you want to go. That's the kind of people that you guys would see in your professional academic network. And then I have some people in my peer academic network. This is a map, and this is a little bit more intense than what you guys' might look like. This is a map that I'm doing now that I've completed Exito. So this is after 2 years of being in the program. And so a lot of these networks, you guys might not have the strong ties, and they might be some of the weaker ties that Jennifer was talking about. So this is what your map might look like at the end, but just go into this, and as I'm talking, kind of think about who these people might be in your lives, and just know that you might not be able to fill all the holes right now, but that's a goal of the program. So when I was talking about professional academic networks, I have a couple of people that have really been instrumental to maybe some of the things that the program is meant to offer. So being really good with helping me get into graduate school. And like I was saying, I know a lot of the demographics of Exito are that there might be first-time students or parents or just a lot of different things that kind of make it really hard to be successful. Well, not be successful, but to like know or have that experience to help you be successful in academia. And so I have some of these people, which one of them is Jennifer Blakesley, my career mentor. And then I have my RLC mentor, which stands for Research Learning Community. And then I have some of my instructors and professors. And then I have the Exito academic mentor. And so all of these people have been the kind of people that are like sponsorship with helping me get into graduate school and writing letters of recommendation. Then I have people who are like coaches. And so they might have helped me with like my CV or putting together some of the pieces that you need to even get to the process of applying for graduate school. And then when you look at my peer academic network, this usually includes people that are undergraduates or graduates or just people that are kind of in your program and are going through what you're going through at the same period in time. And so I have there was a graduate student in my lab, and she was very instrumental in kind of helping. She was always there to answer any questions I had. And so that was KM. And then there was another scholar in my lab, and so me and her collaborated a lot on things, and we were always the people talking to my RLC mentor and just kind of asking questions, but again, someone that was going through that same process with me. And then I have two people that are just my friends, and they're also other undergraduate students, but they were kind of really instrumental in like that collaborative piece and that coaching piece, because there was things that they knew about school and maybe some of the classes I was taking that I didn't always have that background information. And so even though they did provide a lot of personal support, they also were kind of there to do the academic support as well. And then a lot of people might also, in my personal network, I have people like my mom, my dad, my elementary school best friend, and those are the people that are just kind of there. They provide a lot of that emotional support and everything. So that's my academic network. And like I said, this is what it looks like now after 2 years of being in the program and really having time to form those strong connections. Okay, so as I was talking about that, I'm hoping that you guys were all thinking about people that might fit some of these roles for you guys. And so I want you guys to think about this last academic year and maybe people that helped you get to this specific point right now, or people who have been really kind of like instrumental in helping you guys get into college, or just any of those things that have someone who has a strong characteristics of just being a really good mentor and providing that mentorship in any of the capacities of the 5 things that Jennifer talked about. And so also I want you to think about the people that you've met this week that you can maybe see as kind of developing that and helping you get to where you want to get. And so there might be people that you have friends here and you're like, oh yeah, you're like peer mentor and you can kind of help me and you know where I'm coming from. Or there might be some people like Tom or Carlos and you guys like maybe hit it off and you can ask them questions about like resumes or CVs. I mean, you'll have other mentors for this, but sometimes you got to just build your network as big as you can, and asking questions never hurts anyone. And so also, this map that you guys have on your tables right now, the first one that I just showed you, you guys are all going to keep this for yourselves, and so you guys can just start brainstorming about the people in your lives that would fit some of those roles.
Okay, go.
Yeah, go.
We'll take about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. This part's just brainstorming. Don't overthink it. And just to normalize, it might just be a handful of people. It might be less than a handful of people.
People that are actively supporting you. So when you guys were doing the first one and kind of brainstorming, you guys might have just listed people that were like, oh, well, like 4 years ago, like my high school chemistry teacher helped me get into college, and now I don't really talk to them, but they were really there for that role. So I want you guys to really think about people within the last very few months that helped you guys kind of get into these positions. And as you're thinking about them, think about their roles. Who are they to you? And like I said, on the second one, you don't want to put specific names. You want to maybe put categories like professor, and maybe just their last name, or just professor, and then in parentheses, because this is something that you guys will look back at when you guys are exiting the program. And so it's important that you guys have some contextual clue to know who they are to you. So maybe just first and last name initials. And then what school they're from, and when you're thinking about them, you're going to think, did you put them in which section of your first one did you put them in? And then what kind of functions do they support? So were they mentors or coaches or collaborators? And then again, this is something that you really want to analyze, how often you're communicating with them, because we want this to be something to where they're still actively providing that support that you guys would need. And so this kind of is a measure of how strong those ties are, because if you have someone that was really there for you and everything, but you maybe don't talk to them as much, that's probably a tie that's a little weaker or weakening. So you want to think of strong ties, like someone to where if you maybe saw them last week, or if you went up to them tomorrow and were like, hey, I need, would you mind writing me a letter of recommendation? They'd be like, oh, totally. It was so great seeing you in my social science class last week. So, yeah. And so, again, this is an example of one that I did. And so you can see that I did my RLC mentor, which is, again, Raina Croft. So I did her first and last name initials. And then she is from OHSU, but I met her through Exito, so I put PSU and OHSU. She falls in my professional section of my network, and she was there for kind of mentorship and the fact that I guess she's my mentor in general. So as you can expect, there's some mentorship with that. Also, some sponsorship. She was one of the people that kind of helped me get into graduate school. We've also been collaborating as far as she's vouched for me to kind of go to research conferences with her, and we're working on a paper together that'll hopefully get published soon. And so there's just a lot of that. And then also as far as coaching, she's been there and has a lot of that experience with what a professional CV looks like, what a lot of those different processes look like. I can't think right now, but and so when I was doing how often we communicate, I put weekly. Her support's been very helpful, and she's definitely someone that I've known for more than 6 months because of how long I've been in the program. And then there's my career mentor. Same thing. She was kind of there with the mentorship and the sponsorship and helping get me into graduate school. And then I meet with her, which all of you guys, we meet monthly, but we actually kind of started off meeting twice a month, which is not an expectation, but we just have such a great relationship that it worked out. And I've known her for more than 6 months. And so as you can see, I just kind of went through and thought about a lot of the people in the different roles and kind of how they have been a mentor or a coach or a sponsorship or any of those different things. And so as you're doing it, just kind of think about that. And there might be some people that you're going to have to leave off just because maybe on your networks that you did the first time, you put a lot of people that were kind of in that emotional support area. And so this is something that, yeah, feel free to put those people on here, but maybe prioritize some of the more academic roles. All right. Yeah.
Okay, let's go then.
Yeah. All right, so the instructions are just to fill out your grid. Again, think about people that are actively supporting you. And this is a snapshot of the support you're receiving. And so this is a matter of before this week. So maybe when you guys were doing the first ones, I had said think about people that maybe are out here with you or other scholars that you can see yourself maybe collaborating with or maybe being a peer person. So you want to leave these people off just because if they become a regular part of your academic network, you guys will do this again at the end just to kind of evaluate how that mentorship has changed or developed over time. So for right now, we want you guys to leave that part off. And then there's a part that might get a little bit confusing, so just give it some time. But we have numbers for you guys, Scholar ID numbers that will need to go on the tops of all of your things. So when you guys are done, just keep your papers on the thing, and there's some type of process that I'm not sure of how you guys will get numbers on all of your stuff.
Okay, so just to reiterate, so we're using the one that looks like a grid, we use that for the evaluation. And so I don't forget to say it. So that's the narrowed down version of people that are actively supporting you. You may have 3 people on there, you may have 2, you may have 1, you may have none. That's fine. That's totally normal. So just know that that's okay. Don't feel like you need to make it look like something it's not. The idea is that by the end, it looks like Maya's, not that it starts out that way. And then, so we will use this for evaluation, so try to write legibly, and someone will be coming around with those ID numbers. You just need to write it somewhere on the form. There was supposed to be a space that said ID number, and I accidentally left it off. So just write it anywhere, because we don't want your name on this, because it's data, it's research data, so we don't want it connected to you in particular. And then after that, we'll go through and gather those up. Okay, so we'll spend like maybe 10 minutes on this. I want to put just that reminder up for you. So as you're filling it out, just a reminder of what the different support functions are. And go. But we want to know whether when you exit the program, your network looks like Maya's, where she can just name off support people. And so we have to get a baseline measurement of that. And I'll tell you, so we're asking those questions about, who these people are to you, your aunt and your aunt's initials. But here's what we're really measuring, is how many circles for mentoring and sponsorship and coaching and collaboration a couple years from now, how many of those circles are filled out compared to now. So that's why we're kind of asking you these personal questions. It's for the overall evaluation, so we can tell NIH, like, hey, this works. So just wanted to cover that really quick. And now we're going to talk about something a little bit fun, or it's one of my favorite things to talk about. Imposter syndrome. Does anyone know what that is? Have you guys talked about it a little bit this week? Does someone want to give their definition, their best understanding of what imposter syndrome is? Exactly. And you feel like an imposter. You feel like, compared to the other people in the room, you don't really know what's going on, or you're not as qualified as them, or you don't belong as well as they do, and you think maybe someone's going to find you out, and they're going to point you out and say, that person doesn't belong. So this cartoon, I love this, and if you can't read it, it says, all of these people really seem to have it together, and I still have no idea what's going on, and they're all thinking that. So every year, I'm like, can I talk to them about imposter syndrome, because it's this catchy name, but I think it's a really important thing to sort of take a moment and internalize, especially in the middle of such a flurry of a week that you guys are going through now, where you're just downloading all of this information from all these different people. You're at the beginning of a long journey, and you're just starting out on this idea that you might be a biomedical researcher someday, and it can be easy throughout undergrad and throughout graduate school, and even now I feel this sometimes, where it's like you feel like maybe you don't know as much as other people in the room, or maybe you're just sort of doubting yourself. And just the reason it has a name, I mean, this is a social science name, someone named it imposter syndrome, is because of how common it is, but we don't necessarily remember to point it out and say, like, if you're sitting right now thinking, oh God, what did I get into? That's a normal feeling to feel. And I think, Maya, do you want to say anything about sort of if you've experienced that as you went through Exito?
Yeah, I have definitely experienced that. Probably was something you guys are going to do, if not haven't already done. The elevator pitches will give you, well, for me, they shouldn't give you imposter syndrome, but for me, it was like a very stressful thing. And I was like, everyone has their research interests figured out, and I'm just like over here with like wanting to combine like 20,000 different majors into like this one like very detailed research project, and like, what am I doing? Like, I don't even know. And all these people are talking about all of these crazy chemicals and all of these like super cool social science things, and it was just very intense. And so like, I don't know, it was kind of like in the moment, like nice to know that everyone was like feeling the same way. And I know within some of the other scholars programs that I'm involved in, we talk about this a lot, and just kind of the ways that you like kind of hype yourself up to talk about this. Like I see one of my colleagues, Max, over here, and I'm guessing he'll be talking to you guys later, but we're both McNair scholars, and we talk about that all the time. It's like we're like writing research papers and doing all these crazy things, and we're like, how was your abstract? Like, did this come out okay? Like, mine was really hard to write, and like I don't think I did it right. And it's like once we turned them in and like got feedback on them, it was like, actually, like it was fine. You did the assignment, like you did actually the assignment really well. And so it's like anytime I take a test or just anything, like imposter syndrome is real, guys. Like, yeah.
Okay, Dunning-Kruger effect. Has anyone heard of that? It's been in the news a lot lately. So Dunning and Kruger are two psychologists who did a study where I think it was with undergraduates. They had them take a test, and then after they took the test, they measured how confident are you that you did great on this test versus, and they compared that to the scores. And they found that the people who were like, I aced it, did the worst. And the worst, the peak of Mountain Stupid, compared to the ones who were like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I studied, but I feel like I could have studied more. I probably did average, maybe below average, and they're like A's. So it's a phenomenon, and so it kind of goes with imposter syndrome that if people around you are looking more confident than you're feeling, it doesn't mean that they know more about what's being, discussed or examined, and that there will be this subgroup that takes a while to expand their knowledge. And then, do you want to? Okay. So then, also as you enter a field, it's like, oh, and you realize once you get over Mount Stupid, and you realize, oh God, there's so much to know, there's so much to learn. It's kind of, you drop down into what they're calling the valley of despair, where it's like, oh God, I'm never going to absorb all of this. I'm never, chemistry or whatever you're studying, that it's this huge thing, and it's just a matter of getting through it and gaining the knowledge. That's what everybody has to go through once they realize that they don't know much about what the field is yet. And then eventually the slope of enlightenment is you realize, okay, I'm starting to get somewhere here, and the plateau of sustainability. And then here it is with quotes.
Yeah. So as you can kind of see, it kind of follows the up and down, which I don't know why the line's not like mapping. Oh, because the line is white, but I'll try to trace it. So the line kind of goes like here and then down like that, if you guys can see. And so with that, it's kind of saying it's like, huh? And then I was once blind and now I see, there's more to this than I thought. Oh man, I'm never going to understand it. Okay, it's starting to make sense. Trust me, it's complicated. And so with this, I kind of like, as I was talking to Jennifer about this, I kind of looked at it as if you're already at the peak, there's probably nothing more for you to learn. And so it's like, I kind of always look at it as like a humbling experience if I'm not at the peak, because it's like, okay, I can still work towards something. There's still more knowledge to gain. And so just kind of being like that, as Jennifer called it, that, like plateau of knowledge. Like you don't ever really plateau, but it's nice to know that there's still always some more to give, as opposed to just like being at the top and thinking you know everything when likely you probably don't. So,
yeah. Okay, and one more cartoon. So we're taking this back to imposter syndrome because I literally have this up on my cork board in my office to remind myself when I'm feeling this. This imposter syndrome feels like, and you've got the little spy guy, what I know compared to what others around me, what I think they know. That's how it feels, where you're like, my piece is so small compared to everybody else knows so much. But this is what it actually is. This is reality. And the farther I get along in my career, the more I realize how true this is we've got our circle of what I know, and then everybody else just has their circle. And there's overlap between the circles, and they overlap with our circle, but no one has a bigger scope than we do. And especially as you develop, so thinking about like your elevator speech, you're just starting to sort of think about, what am I interested in? When I think about what am I interested in, what comes to mind? You're just starting to develop your circle, and there will be overlaps with other circles. And importantly, one of the ways that Exito sort of addresses this phenomenon is they start connecting you to other circles that are people, faculty members, peer mentors that are going to have that overlap, that can help you figure out what your circle is by them being connected to you. And with that, I'll lead it into Tom, who's going to talk about the Exito mentoring model. Thanks, everybody.